Good evening, everyone. Welcome to my channel again. I'm Nadia Ruffin. I'll wait a few minutes to let everybody get logged in, and then we'll get started. So how's everyone doing this evening? Hey, Michelle, how are you? So if y'all haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you are not following me on Facebook, please subscribe to my Facebook channel. I'm sorry, my Facebook page. It's Urban Farm Sister. My YouTube is Urban Farm Sister also. If you'd like to become a patron to help me keep this content coming, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Urban Farm Sister. And if you'd like to also contribute, you don't want to be a patron, but you'd like to contribute, you can use my Cash App. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about this evening. I'm waiting for one of the viewers that did the homework. I'm waiting for her to log in so that she can come on here and read her answers to the questions. If she doesn't come in the next few minutes, we'll just have to come back to her once she gets logged in. All right. So this evening, we are going to talk about mosquitoes. The reason being, I've gone outside and I've actually seen mosquitoes, and we're in April. Usually they're not showing up until May, but they're coming early this year. And so I wanted to, just educate you guys on mosquitoes and, what they are and uh, the things they're capable of doing, as well as how do you control being bitten by them, how to control their populations and things like that. So I'm glad you guys could tune in because this is very important information. And let's see. Okay, I'm trying to get her in here. She's muted right now. But we'll just go ahead and then once she gets all the way in, then we'll add her to the stream. All right. So first of all, I'd like to thank some of my contributors. I had a few people last week either donate or they became patrons or they used Cash App and they sent me a donation, and I'm very thankful for them. I want to thank Tina Thornton, Nakia Hay, Chandler Glover, Frank Williams, Regina Pollard, and Natalie Pipkins. Thank you very much for contributing to, Urban Farm Sister and the things that I do, whether it be the farming or teaching on these, these live videos. I'm very grateful. The money will help me, keep content coming, and I'm thankful for that. And like I said earlier, if anybody would like to contribute, you can do so. You can go to my PayPal, or you can go to Patreon, or you can go to Cash App. I'll put those links in the comments, so you guys can visit those if you like to contribute. All right, so a little bit about myself before I get started. For those of you that do not know me, My name is Nadia Ruffin. I'm located in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm an entomologist, a scientist, a farmer, researcher, and an educator. I have 2 degrees. I have a bachelor's of science from the Ohio State University in agriculture. My focus was animal sciences, pre-veterinary medicine, and I minored in entomology. I have an entomology. I have a master's of science from the University of Nebraska. So like I said, I'm an entomologist. An entomologist is a person that studies insects. My focus in graduate school was medical entomology, but I found that most people don't know anything about any insects, and so I try to educate about them using social media as well as offering classes and things like that. Um, I'm owner of a urban farm here in Cincinnati called Kiwi Produce. I'm also I started a nonprofit called AgriCademy Incorporated. I'm co-owner of AgriCademy Labs. That's a biotech lab that I'm starting up with my partner Chandler Glover, and what we're going to do is we're going to do biotechnology plants. We're going to do entomological services as well as automation. I'm an urban farmer, a hydroponics. I grow plants in hydroponics or as well as in soil in the city. I teach beekeeping. I own bees. I own chickens. I teach people how to, grow their own food and things like that. I have years of experience in floriculture. My family owns a flower shop here called Blossoms Florist. And I have a dense background in veterinary medical research. For over 20 years, I worked in that field before I actually switched to, the entomology and the agriculture and the teaching of what I do now. I used to work in research labs and I also worked in public health as a disease investigator. All right, so last week's homework questions. We had one person that submitted answers, so I told her she could come on here this evening and she could present her answers. And I think she is here now. Hold on, I think she sent me a message. All right, so I'm gonna add her to the stream. Hey, Shanika, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Cool.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody, this is Shanika Bedford. She was one of the people that actually answered the homework questions that I had last week in the last stream. So I told her she could come on here and she could answer them. She could present the answers that she actually researched and found. So the first question was talking about bioavailability. I don't know if you guys remember, we talked about, what's a fruit, what's a vegetable. And so the first question was when early European colonists arrived in North America, native people, especially the Iroquois, taught them how to farm and prepare corn. Europeans took back corn to Europe and began cultivating it. Real and long-lasting problems arose when corn became a commodity crop as early as the 1700s in Europe. In the 19th century, rural South sharecroppers grew it, sold it, ate it, and became sick. And so one of the questions was, what is the name of the disease that they developed? And then, Native Americans, they were also consuming this corn and things, and they never experienced this disease. But there was a process that they used on that corn. And so I wanted to know what the name of that process was and what nutrient does this process make bioavailable, essentially that prevented the Native Americans from actually experiencing this disease that the Europeans did. So I'm gonna put Shanika on the main screen here. And uh-oh. Let's switch here. All right, there you go.
That one was a tough one. It took me a whole week to find it. I didn't find it till this morning when I almost gave up.
And she told me that she went back and she looked through some of my videos. Like a lot of these questions I asked you guys, I've already presented this stuff a while ago. I just want to see who's paying attention and who's not paying attention. So that's how she found the one answer. So you go ahead and read it if you like.
So the answer I got was the name of the disease that the Europeans got from not properly processing corn is pellagra.
Yes,
Pellagra. Not sure if I'm saying it right.
yes, it's pellagra.
Um, the process that the Native Americans used to prepare the corn was called nixtamalization. That
Yes.
one's easier if you just say it fast. So through that process, or in that process, the Native Americans soaked corn in an alkali solution like lime and that the process of nixtamalization makes niacin bioavailable to the body.
Exactly. That's correct. So the disease was called pellagra. It's a disease where if you have a niacin deficiency, your skin will start to it'll start to flake, and you have all these sores, and you're just in bad shape, and you can eventually die from the disease. And that was what was happening over in Europe. They were dying, and they were like, well, why is everybody dying over here that's eating the corn? Well, over in the Americas, those Native Americans were eating it. They're not experiencing that. And that's when they went back and they realized that they had forgot that whole step of that nixtamalization, to where they were releasing that niacin from there. And then they also eat the corn with beans, and that beans made I think it gave you tryptophan also. And so that was another vital amino acid that the body needs. And so because of them eating those two together, they were able to get the whole full, bioavailable nutrients from that meal. So once they found that out, then they took that knowledge back to, Europe, and then they were able to reverse those effects of the pellagra for the people that survived. Now the ones that died, they really couldn't do nothing for them. Um, all right. So the second question was, let me see, I gotta switch screens here. All right. So question number 2 is, what type of fruits are the following? So we have banana, avocado, coconut, pineapple, pomegranate, grape, cherry, cashews, soybeans. And she had to go. We all know they're fruits, but they're specific types of fruits. So she went through and she researched them and she found them. And so if you want to go ahead and tell people what you found, see if I can get this other screen to come up.
Okay, so
Okay, go ahead.
Bananas are berries. Avocados are berries also. Coconut was kind of hard, but it's a drupe.
Yes.
Pineapples, I didn't know this. This was interesting, but pineapples are actually berries. I think it's a bunch of berries that fuse together.
Yes.
Pomegranates are berries. Grapes are berries. Cherries are drupes. Cashews was another one where, I don't know, it was like different sources said different things, but they're drupes, I think. And
Yes.
soybeans were challenging, but I think the answer is they're legumes.
Yes, it's a legume. Yep, exactly. And they're actually the way they're beneficial is that their plants will fix nitrogen into the soil, so that's why they're used a lot after you're a crop like say corn. You'll put soybean down, and they'll actually fix nitrogen back into the soil. So those are beneficial legumes. But yeah, so you got those all right. And I thank you for doing the homework, because you were the only one that did it this week. I had one other person last week do it. But I need you guys to do the homework so that you guys are learning and going out and actually finding answers to this stuff. So I appreciate you coming on. I guess you can log into the YouTube now, because I'm gonna start talking about the mosquitoes. But we got some more homework, so if you want to do that too for the mosquitoes, you can.
I plan on doing it every week. It's helping me learn.
Good.
And
good.
then I've been having fun with my niece too, just talking to her about different stuff. Like she was like, "Oh yeah, I knew pineapples were berries," and I'm like, "Where'd you learn that at?" She's like, "At school." I'm like, "They didn't teach me that at school."
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff that we're not taught in school, or even going to the grocery store, they don't even classify them like that. You just say it's a fruit or it's a vegetable, and they just throw it up there. So yeah, we have
I'm
a
like,
lot
everything is classified wrong.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so now we're going to get into today's discussion of talking about mosquitoes. Hey, Stephen Hill, how are you doing? Uh-oh, why is it not turning? Okay, so the day's outline, we're going to talk about why this presentation is necessary, what is medical entomology. We're going to talk about background information about mosquitoes. We're going to talk about 3 different types of mosquitoes: Aedes aegypti, Aedes albopictus, Culex pipiens. And then we're going to talk about mosquito-transmitted diseases in the U.S. We're going to talk about some prevention measures that you can take. and we're gonna talk about the insect that people always mistake as a mosquito, but it really isn't. And then we're gonna have a conclusion, and then we'll be done. Um, I had posted a quiz that you guys could do before we had this presentation. I wanted to see you guys' knowledge, and I had a few people that actually took the quiz, and I thank you for that. Just want to see what you guys know about mosquitoes and what you don't know. So it's a little 10 question quiz, and I'm going to give a follow-up quiz after the presentation if you'd like to take that one as well. So why is this presentation necessary? People die from a lack of knowledge. There are a number of diseases transmitted by mosquitoes. Um, if you're going to spend like any time this summer, spring outside, you'll need to know about mosquitoes. If you would be vacationing near the Gulf Coast, Georgia, Florida, the Caribbean, or Central and South America, you definitely know about mosquitoes. Um, um, did you know that there are steps you can take that keep mosquito populations under controls? And do you even know what a mosquito looks like? So today we're going to educate you on a whole bunch of different stuff as it pertains to mosquitoes and, their life cycles and, how you can prevent yourself from being bit by them. So first we're going to talk about what is medical entomology or medical veterinary entomology. So this is a discipline of medical veterinary entomology or public health entomology that focuses on insects and arthropods that impact human and other animal health. So this is what I actually focused on when I went to graduate school. It was medical entomology. I was very interested in studying insects that transmit disease as well as other arthropods that transmit disease. So I don't know if you guys can see in this picture. There's this is my arm here, and I have a mosquito biting me. Can anybody tell me what that mosquito is? I know it's kind of small, but they are small. But looking at the coloring, if you can see it, can you tell me what kind of mosquito that is? We also have this insect here. This is becoming a real problem in the southern part of the United States. Then we have, those are ticks. And we have this fly here. I don't know if you guys ever heard of tsetse flies. But see, these are some of the major, insects or arthropods that, carry disease. Right up here, we have what is called a kissing bug. And like I said, they're becoming a major problem in the south part of the United States because they transmit a disease called Chagas disease. And nobody guessed the mosquito. I know it's a delay, but this is an Asian tiger mosquito. All right. So some terms we're going to talk about. So first we're going to talk about what is an arthropod vector-borne disease. These are human or animal illnesses caused by parasites, viruses, and bacteria that are transmitted by mosquitoes, or it could be sandflies, tritomine bugs, black flies, ticks, tsetse flies, mites, snails, lice. These are the major ones. There are some other insects and things that can be, considered parasites, but they may not transmit disease. But we're going to only focus on the ones that actually do transmit disease. So looking at this list, can anybody name a tick-borne disease that you know of, that you might know of? Anybody know of tick-borne disease? I'm scared of those flies. So you probably didn't see a TT fly on an ER horror show. You probably saw what are called bot flies, and what they do is they lay their eggs in a host. They lay their eggs on a host, and then their larva hatches out of the egg, and then it burrows down into that animal or human, and it lives there in the skin. That's where they take those bot flies out of there. But that TT fly, it actually transmits a trypanosome in Africa that causes sleeping sickness, or it's called trypanosomiasis is the scientific name for the disease that they cause. Yes, Naomi H. Lyme disease is a tick-borne disease. Can anybody think of yeah, Stephen spot Rocky Mountain spotted fever is another tick-borne disease. How about a um Hmm. I say a mosquito-borne disease because some of these other ones are harder. Can anybody think of any mosquito-borne diseases? Well, while you guys answer that, I'll go on and then I'll say the answers that you guys put in a second. So another term we want to talk about is biological vectors. So, um, biological vectors are things such as mosquitoes or ticks that may carry pathogens that can multiply within their bodies and be delivered to a new host, usually by biting. A mechanical vector, these are things such as flies or roaches that can pick up infectious agents on their outside of their bodies and transmit them through physical contact. Yes, malaria, West Nile, those are both um, mosquito-borne diseases. Dengue, yes, that's another mosquito-borne disease. So you guys know your mosquito-borne diseases. Um, let's see. Shanika said, "Oh yes, I've definitely saw one of those bot flies." I was like, "Why would God make that thing? I know it has a reason though." Yes, Zika, yellow fever, those are also mosquito-borne diseases. So you guys know y'all mosquito-borne diseases. I'm proud because I've done the presentation before and people had no idea like of any mosquito-borne diseases. So you guys are you advanced, and I love that. Um, so can anybody think of a mechanical vector, a fly or a roach, a disease that they would transmit, um, on their bodies? Can anybody think of a disease that they would transmit, a fly or a roach? Like I said, a mechanical vector is one that can pick up infectious agents on the outside of their bodies and transmit them through physical contact. Because can you think of something that a roach might transmit that could cause, infection or, sickness, or even a fly? All right, so I'll go ahead and I'll answer that once we get some responses. If we get any responses, you might not know. So mosquitoes, they are disease vectors. So we're gonna talk about a little background information about mosquitoes. Oh, they cut my picture off at the top. Um, Mosquitoes belong to the order Diptera, so they are related to flies. Diptera is the order name, and it's the order that contains all the flies. So that's mosquitoes, house flies, gnats, fruit flies, crane flies, uh, tsetse fly. All types of flies fall under Diptera. um, the actual family that mosquitoes fall under is called Calicidae. They are found on every continent except Antarctica. Why wouldn't you find mosquitoes on Antarctica? Their wings have scales, and the females, their mouth parts are modified to pierce skin for blood meals. Only the females feed on blood. The males do not feed on blood. Males will feed on nectar from flowers, and they do not require a blood meal. The reason that females need the blood is because they need it to produce their eggs. There's only one species of mosquitoes that do not require a blood meal to make eggs, but for the rest of them, they require a blood meal, whether it be from human or animal or another animal. They're gonna have to require that blood. The blood contains proteins that help build the eggs. So until she gets that blood meal, she cannot produce eggs. She can mate, but right after she mates, she's gonna have to get a blood meal so that she can produce those eggs. Um, Males, like I said, they feed on nectar and they have feathery antenna. It cut my picture off at the top. Sorry about that. But in this picture down here, you have the proboscis, which is the mouth part of the female, and it is right here. And this is what she uses to actually, um, right here, this long. It's called the labium or the proboscis. Right down here is what she will actually stick into your skin, and she uses this. She'll put in some anticoagulant so the blood will flow freely, and she'll just suck it up. This is also the time when she's feeding that she has some type of pathogen or parasite in her that it can actually be spit out and go into your body or into whatever animal she's feeding on. So this is how disease is transmitted is through that bite when she's feeding for that blood meal. All right. Yes, Antarctica is too cold. That's why you don't find mosquitoes there. Um, they are ectotherms, which means they have to have the environment warm them. There's also not a lot of, life on Antarctica that they would actually be able to get a blood meal and things like that. Um, Gail said bacterial disease, lice. Mm, no, I don't remember what that was for. I'm sorry. Flies, diseases, dysentery, cholera, typhoid fever, tuberculosis. Yes, so the flies, they can pick up those things on, if they're, crawling around on waste and things, so they can pick up things like dysentery, cholera, typhoid fever, tuberculosis. Um, Flies have actually been used in like what they call as entomological warfare, where they've been dropped on populations of people and they had been allowed to crawl on things that like dysentery that had dysentery or cholera on it. They were dropped on people. They spread those diseases amongst those populations of people and were able to wipe them out. This was one of the tactics that Japan used on China, and they ended up wiping out 500,000 people with cholera and dysentery by dropping flies, and they also dropped fleas on them, and I believe the fleas had plague. And so, insects can be used, especially these vector-borne, disease type insects. They can be used to transmit disease and wipe out populations. So they've been used in wars. Um, we've had populations of mosquitoes uh, dropped on people here in the United States to test and see how well they could spread something. So I mean, they've been used throughout history. All right, so mosquitoes. All mosquitoes undergo complete metamorphosis, which is an egg, a larva, pupa, and adults. The larva it lives in water and are called wigglers. Pupa are called tumblers because they move if disturbed, but that's the pupal stage. So I actually have a container of some mosquito larvae that I found outside in some water, so I got to dump that water out. But I saved them just so you guys could see these little wigglers if they'll get the camera to focus. But these are what they look like when you find them in the water. See if I can get it to turn around. These are wigglers. It's a few tumblers in here, so it's a few pupas. So they're probably going to turn into mosquitoes in the next day or two. Adults, they'll emerge from those tumblers. Um, But this is what they look like. So if you're ever outside and you see water and you see little things wiggling around in here, please dump that water. Because if you don't, you're gonna have mosquitoes. If the temperatures are right, if it's like, really warm, sunny, you can have a new mosquito in about a week, 7 to 10 days. From egg all the way to adult. They'll emerge in 7 to 10 days. So if you see these things moving around in any sitting water, please dump it. This will, you know, reduce their populations greatly. Also, getting rid of that water that will, you know, remove, breeding sites for mosquitoes, which we'll talk about in a little bit. They already in water. I can't drown them. Well, I can put some oil in the water and that'll drown them. But actually, I'm gonna let them. I'm not gonna open the container, but I'm gonna let them turn into adults so you guys can see that they are indeed mosquitoes. Um, All right, so mosquito-borne diseases. So there's a host of diseases that mosquitoes can transmit. A lot of them are viral, but some of them are not. There's some of them are parasitic. Some of them are, uh, you know, some types of parasites, protozoans, and things like that. So one of them is Eastern equine encephalitis, Lacrosse virus, St. Louis encephalitis, West Nile virus, heartworm in dogs and other animals, chikungunya, dengue, Japanese encephalitis, malaria, yellow fever, Zika virus, and there's, like I said, a host more. These are most common ones. These still circulate in populations. Daryl Ruffin said, "I'm really amazed with your presentation." Thank you, Daryl. Yes, it is horrible. But yeah, insects, they've been used in biological warfare. We always think about people just dropping a virus on us or something, but they can actually use insects and they can go undetected. You would never think that a mosquito biting you that could be used as a weapon, but it can. Um, Mosquitoes will feed on a multitude of hosts. Females pick up these pathogens in the blood and they transmit these diseases to the next host during the next feeding that she has. Some mosquitoes are concerned that we're going to talk about are Aedes aegypti, Aedes albopictus, and Culex pipiens. Hey, Frank Williams, how you doing? That's all right. It's recorded. You only missed a few slides. You missed a homework question answer, so you have to watch that later because we had one of the students that attends the broadcast. She came on and gave us her answers. So you got to make sure you do your homework so you can be on here too. All right. So any questions about um, mosquitoes up to this point before we start talking about the three main ones that are a health scare or issue here? All right, so Aedes aegypti. It's also known as a yellow fever mosquito. It is actually native to Africa. It's roughly 4 to 7 millimeters. The females are actually larger than the males. They have these white scales on the dorsal surface of their thorax. So their thorax is the region right behind the head. It's like their chest area, like your thoracic cavity. They call that the thorax on the insect as well. Um, they have a violin shaped like design on the top of that thorax. And these are actually mosquitoes that bite during the day. So they don't wait till night. They'll bite during the day. And they're actually the females are looking for hosts during the day. They prefer to live in human dwellings. So a lot of these mosquitoes, they will overwinter in people's homes or they'll overwinter in areas that are close to people because they can live in a heated area and keep them warm. They can transmit Zika virus, chikungunya, and dengue. And we'll talk about those in a little bit, those diseases. But just know that they can transmit it. So Aedes aegypti, their life cycle, like I said, they all undergo, no matter the mosquito, they all undergo complete metamorphosis, which is egg, larva, pupa, and adult. The adult lifespan is roughly 2 weeks to a month. I'm sorry. The females lay a roughly 100 to 200 eggs, depending on how much blood meal she consumes. She lays the eggs singly instead of clusters on moist ground prone to flooding. Um, Eggs are white, but they will actually turn black. So I have a picture of some eggs right here at the top. The larvae will hatch in about 3 to 7 days, and that's dependent on temperature. The warmer it is, the closer it is to like 90 degrees, and mid 80s, upper 80s to 90 degrees, the faster they're going to hatch and the faster they're going to develop. Um, so that's 3 to 7 days. Like I said, the larvae they will live near the surface of the water, and I have showed you some wigglers here, and I actually saw adult mosquitoes. She had just emerged, or it looked like a female, and it was a Aedes mosquito. It's actually the Aedes albopictus, what we're going to talk about next. Um, so there are mosquitoes out, and they're out early this year. Usually, in here in Ohio, they don't come out really until mid May. So they're out now in April. Um, they undergo 4 instars, and that's just where they'll like shed skin and get bigger, and then they'll pupate and they'll turn into that tumbler that I was telling you about before. And they require only 2 days to emerge as an adult. So from the time they turn to a pupa, that tumbler, if the temperatures are right, they can emerge as an adult in 2 days. Aedes albopictus, also known as the Asian tiger mosquito, is a native to the tropical and subtropical areas of southeastern Asia. They are roughly 2 to 10 millimeters, with females also being larger than males. They are characterized by black, shiny scales and distinct silver white scales on the legs. Uh, their backs have a white stripe down the middle. They don't have that violin shape. Their life cycle is very similar to Aedes aegypti, the one we just talked about, the yellow fever mosquito. Um, their eggs can actually survive without drying out for up to a year, but they may require repeat submersions before it hatches. Mosquitoes, these only overwinter as eggs, so the adults will die out. They don't try to find human dwellings to live in, but the adults will die out. But they'll lay those eggs, and those eggs can actually survive up in for a year. They won't dry out. They'll just have to get, it'll rain and say that the mother mosquito laid the eggs where she know there's usually a puddle of water that will develop. She'll lay their eggs on that edge of that area where that puddle developed, hoping that it will rain. If it repeat submersions of those eggs will actually cause them to hatch, and then we'll have new mosquitoes. And again, they have that same, you know, 3 to 7 days. They'll hatch, and then within a week you could have a new mosquito. Yeah, mosquitoes are already out. Frank Williams wants to know some natural predators. We haven't gotten to that yet. We will talk about that. Stephen Hill wants to know, do sweat attract them? We haven't talked about yet. We'll get to that. I cut my shoot. Okay, so this is a map showing where you find Aedes albopictus and Aedes aegypti mosquitoes. So the darker red is where you find Aedes aegypti. That's a yellow fever mosquito. And then that kind of lighter red color, that's the distribution of Aedes albopictus, which is the Asian tiger mosquito. So the Asian tiger mosquito has pretty much, it was introduced, I think, in like the 90s. I want to say 90, 96. It was actually brought over here on some shipping cargo, and that mosquito has pretty much spread from that point. This map, I think, is kind of old. It's from 2016. They're actually probably even further west now. Um, there are populations that show up in the west because humans, we help them travel. If they get caught in our cars, or any of our luggage or something, and we, don't realize that they're there, we open that stuff up, they release. Then there's populations that show up in other areas. So like I said, they've shown up in like California because of human assistance, helping them travel there. Shanika says, I've seen mosquitoes already. Yes, I've already wondered how bugs live throughout the winter. So a lot of insects, they can make their own antifreeze. Um, then some of them overwinter as eggs. Some of them overwinter as in cocoons and and like pupa. Some of them, burrow down in the ground, and then some of them actually invade human homes and they stay in the human dwellings. An example of one that invades a home is the Asian lady beetle. It's a type of ladybug that was introduced from Asia to help control aphids, but this is one that, although it's beneficial, it can also be invasive. And it will come into your home, and those particular ladybugs, they will bite. Um, like I said, these mosquitoes, some of the Aedes aegypti will actually overwinter in people's homes. Stink bugs, they'll overwinter in people's homes. So I mean, there's the insects, they're resilient. They're going to find a way to survive, whether it be living with us or just laying eggs and having those eggs survive. But they're very resilient. They can survive cold temperatures and things because their bodies are equipped to make their own antifreeze as well. So like when it gets warm, it can be like 30 degrees or snowing, and then if we get like a 55-degree day, you'll see flies flying around. All they do is just thaw out and they just become active again. All right. So some diseases that are transmitted by Aedes mosquitoes are dengue, chikungunya, and Zika virus. Yep. So Shanika, I need to put that. I want them people to see that comment. So Shanika said that she travels, and she's had bugs hitch a ride from Chicago all the way to, from Cincinnati to Chicago and other places. Yes. So this is how insects are transmitted to other areas. They will hitch a ride on a car. You might see like an insect. You ever like had an insect on your window and you go to another neighborhood and it's still on the window? So if you take them out of state, you can take them other places. And this is how, we've helped a lot of these invasive species of insects spread across the United States by us traveling and them just hitching rides. So it happens all the time. We're gonna talk about Zika virus now. Um, it's a new virus here over in the Americas, but we're gonna talk about that after we talk about dengue. All right, so dengue is a flavivirus spread by both Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus. So Aedes aegypti is a yellow fever mosquito. Aedes albopictus is the Asian tiger mosquito. 50 to 100 million people are infected each year. Dengue is a dangerous disease due to four different serotypes. So you can have dengue 1, dengue 2, dengue 3, and dengue 4. You can become immune to one serotype but still catch the other three. Dengue 4 is the most serious one. It's because it causes dengue hemorrhagic fever, and it can actually be fatal. What it does is it causes bleeding, and you have a drop in your blood pressure, and that will kill you. But if you get the other three, usually your symptoms are fever, headache, muscle and joint pain, and a skin rash that is similar to the measles. Um, Depending on the person's age as well as their health, dengue can be a mild thing or it can be very severe. There's no treatment for it. There's no vaccines to prevent it. It's usually just uh, you'll get like pain medication and things if you go to the hospital. Now, if you get the dengue hemorrhagic fever, they're going to have to do some other treatments to make sure your blood pressure doesn't drop and you don't have excess bleeding and things. But like I said, dengue, you can become immune to one because your body has been introduced to the one virus, but then there's another three that you can still possibly pick up, and all of them could be circulating at one time amongst a population of mosquitoes. All right, so chikungunya. Chikungunya is it's an alpha virus, and it's spread also by Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus. It has a sylvic cycle in Africa, which means it usually stays out in forest animals. Um, but what happens is that the mosquitoes come in, they will bite the monkeys and then they'll go where human populations are and they'll bring that virus back to human populations by biting people in those populations. Symptoms are similar to dengue but does not have the hemorrhagic stage, is normally not fatal. The virus clears up eventually depending on your age and your health of your patient. This could be weeks, months, or even years. A patient can be infected by both dengue and chikungunya at the same time. There was an outbreak in India in 2006 that had co-infection. So it was a lot of people that had both of them at the same time. Chikungunya, it means broke bone fever. So it won't kill you, but it'll feel like it's killing you. It says people that have had it, it says their joints, it feels like their bones are breaking. And so again, only real treatment for it. There's no vaccine to prevent it. The real treatment is, pain medication, hospitalization, just things to keep you comfortable until the virus, the virus load, your body fights it off, and your immune system becomes resistant to it. All right, Zika virus. Historically has occurred in Africa, Southeast Asia, and islands in the Pacific oceans. It showed up in northern Brazil in 2014. It is also a flavivirus like dengue. It never caused microcephaly until 2015 in Brazil. So, microcephaly, I don't know if you guys remember back when we had the Zika virus scare over here in, the Americas, especially in the Caribbean, Brazil, South America and things like that. Um, there were a population of babies that were being born that had they had smaller than normal heads. Um, and so they were saying that the virus, Zika virus itself, was causing these women to give birth to these babies with microcephaly. There's still been ongoing research about this to make that they're still not positively sure that the virus itself caused that. There were some other things going on during that time. There were some vaccine trials being done for whooping cough on the people in those areas. and things like that. So there was a lot of stuff going on at this time that could have contributed to that microcephaly. It didn't necessarily have to be that virus that did it because it had never done that in the past. Um, if people are planning to go and travel to these areas where this virus is still circulating, which is the Caribbean, uh, parts of Florida, um, Brazil, other countries in South America, Central America. And if you're a pregnant woman or you're a couple planning to become pregnant, you're advised not to travel to that region while there's active transmission. Be like I said, because they really don't know if the virus caused this or not. So if you're pregnant or you plan on being pregnant, it's probably best that you don't go to those regions at this point in time. This is transmitted by the yellow fever mosquito, but has been shown to be transmitted by the Asian tiger mosquito in Africa and China. Um, so both those Aedes mosquitoes are capable of transmitting it. Um, Here, it seems to be the yellow fever mosquito. The yellow fever mosquito does it more here, but Aedes albopictus is able to do it here as well. All right, so chikungunya. Some of the symptoms. So all of them exhibit a fever, Zika virus. The fever, it's kind of bad, but dengue and chikungunya, it's worse. Um, the rash, you have a rash with Zika. You also have a rash with chikungunya. Sometimes you have a rash with dengue. Uh, Conjunctivitis. This was found in the Zika virus. So that's you think of pink eye, you think of conjunctivitis. It's kind of your eyes will be red, itchy. Um, Structures inside the eye become swollen and things like that. Um, let's see, headaches, hemorrhagic fever. Hemorrhagic fever is only specific to the dengue. Also, shock comes along with the dengue. Then there's joint and muscle pain. That's with all three of them. So I mean, you don't want these. I mean, there's no treatment for them as far as that's going to instantly get rid of your symptoms. You can take main pain medication, and there's no preventatives either. All right, so these are the countries where there's active Zika transmission. So we have United States, we have South America, we have parts of Asia, Africa. We even have some cases up in Alaska. So just know that Zika virus is out there, dengue is out there, um, and chikungunya is out there. So just know that. Okay. All right. So Culex pipiens. Culex pipiens is commonly referred to as the house mosquito. It is the main vector of St. Louis encephalitis, West Nile virus, Western equine encephalitis, heartworm in dogs, and bird malaria. The main hosts are normally birds, but they will feed on mammals, including humans. So Shanika said on time, I'm praying on time, praying mantis jumped in our van through a cracked window while we were riding in the expressway. It landed on my husband. I think the praying mantis and he were both surprised. I mean, it landed on my husband's arm. Yeah. Yeah, they can get in. Insects can get in anywhere. Praying mantis though, they don't carry any diseases or anything. They're actually predators, so they're beneficial. All right, so Culex pipiens, they consider to be a medium-sized mosquito. The adult Culex pipiens may reach up to like I think it was 7 millimeters. Um, the body is usually brownish or grayish brown. The proboscis and wings are usually brown. Eggs are laid on in rafts, so these are different than the 80s. They lay those single eggs. We have a female in this picture. She's laying eggs on a raft, and it actually floats on the surface of the water. And then the larvae will come out, and then they'll go into the water. Um, they actually lay their eggs in polluted or stagnant water. So that water that smells really bad and it's nasty looking, they'll usually lay their eggs in there. And so this is usually water that's sitting in containers and it's just gone bad and it smells horrible. They love that type of water. That's what they use to lay their eggs in. The eggs will usually hatch within 2 to 2 days. And again, like I said, if conditions are right, you can have a new mosquito in 7 to 10 days. So this is their distribution. Even though it says 2002, they really haven't. This distribution hasn't changed. It might be a little bit more southward now, into like more in the Florida area. Florida has every mosquito you can probably think of, so I'm pretty sure there's probably some Culex down there. Um, I can't imagine it not be. But this was the main mosquito that was, introduced over here that caused the West Nile outbreak. So they're constantly monitoring Culex pipian populations to see if West Nile is going to, have a it's endemic now, which means it's part of the population. But every now and then we do have where you can have an outbreak of it. So how do you protect yourself from being bitten? And so I use myself for science. That's my hand right there. Actually, that's my arm, and that's a Asian tiger mosquito, and she was feeding on me. And after that picture, she was destroyed. Um, but yes, there are mosquitoes in Canada and Central South America. So how does a female mosquito detect its host? So there's a number of ways that she goes about doing this. First, she detects CO2 levels. So CO2 is what you actually exhale when you're breathing. When you breathe in oxygen, you exhale CO2. So it's carbon dioxide. Then she looks for body heat. She once she detects CO2 and then she finds body heat, then she's gonna move in. And the next thing she thinks she's gonna do is she's gonna land. And she's hopefully landing on skin. So she's gonna sense your skin. She's gonna smell for certain things on your skin, like lactic acid. So lactic acid is produced when you sweat. So somebody asked earlier, does sweat attract mosquitoes? Yes. And usually when you're sweating, your body temperature is up. So she's going to detect your body heat a lot quicker if you're doing something, where your body heat is up and you're sweating. And so then she's looking for that lactic acid. That lets her know that she's on skin. So then she'll move around, and then she'll finally find a place that she's going to actually feed based off her moving around and knowing that she's actually on skin. Then she'll go ahead and stick her proboscis down in there, and she will start feeding. And like I said, there's anticoagulants that she spits out that keep the blood from clotting while she's, sucking it up and things like that. Um, so it's a whole little system that she goes by. She first detects that CO2, then the body heat, then she'll land. Hopefully, she can smell lactic acid on the skin. Then she'll move around to find a good spot to feed, and then she'll just go about feeding. And they can do this undetected. There's also, um, what do you call it? Analgesics and things that she releases, so you can't really detect her there. I mean, how many times have you guys been bit by mosquitoes and then you got bit by mosquitoes? They're very, stealthy at their methods. All right. So the way you prevent mosquitoes is that you want to eliminate their breeding sites. They're gonna always you're not gonna get rid of every mosquito, but if you can do anything to keep their populations low, you lessen the chance of you actually contracting any diseases from them. The way you keep their diseases low, I mean their populations low, is by reducing their breeding sites. So, reducing their breeding sites, they only breed in water, and they breed in water that's standing still. Like they will never breed in a river, anything that has a current. They can't. Their larvae can't survive in that, and then they just don't do well in that type of water. It has to be still water, and like the Culex pipiens, it has to be that stagnant type water, because their larva feeds on algae and things that are growing in that water. Um, so the main thing you can do is eliminate standing water. So this week, since I told you they're already out here in Ohio, so I know down in the South they're already out biting people. Um, I want you to go outside, and especially if it rained recently, I want you to go outside and find things that may have filled up. Like if you have, dog bowls outside, children's toys like wagons or buckets, any type of container that can fill up with water. I need you to go outside and first see if you see any little wigglers in there, just so you can see what they look like. And then I want you to dump that water out. Dumping that water out, they will dry up in the sun, and they will not be able, those young larvae will not be able to pupate and then turn into adults. They'll dry up in the out. Once they're not in the water anymore, they'll just dry up and die. Um, so go around your house, go around your apartment, you know, get your neighbors involved because it has to be a community effort uh, to make sure there's no standing water. I can get rid of all the water in my area, but if my neighbor has, like a rain barrel that they don't have covered with netting to keep mosquitoes out, they're just going to be a breeding ground, and then they'll produce a whole bunch of mosquitoes that'll come out and feed. Um, so you know, if the water if it has to be a standing water, say if it's like a bird bath or something, and it has to be standing water, there's things you can do. You can add to the water that can be used as a preventative for the um uh used to kill the actual mosquito populations. So if you can't, you know, dump it out, there are things you can add. We'll talk about those in a second. But one of the one things you can do is you have high grass, keep the grass low. If you have weeds building up, try to keep the weeds low. Um, if you can't dump the water, add mosquito dunks to the water. So mosquito dunks are these things off to the right. They're little brown circles right here. These are actually they contain a bacteria called Bacillus thuringiensis israelis. This bacteria specifically targets mosquito larvae. It's also effective against fungus gnats and drain flies. But what happens is that the bacteria, the mosquito larvae, while they're feeding in the water, they will pick up, if you have one of these dunks in the water, they will pick up that bacteria, they'll eat it, and then what it'll do, it'll kill them. Um, it's biodegradable. It's environmentally friendly. Like I said, it only targets mosquitoes. So if you have like a bird bath or a water storage outside or something like that, you're gonna want to put that in there. You want to put it in gutters, anywhere there's water standing that you can't physically go and dump it out all the time. Like if you have like a little garbage can or something outside or a little bucket, you can turn those over. But you may not want to. You want water in your bird feeder. I mean your bird bath. So you want to make sure that you're putting something in there that that water to prevent mosquitoes from reproducing in there. If it's like a pond or something, you can add fish. There's a fish called a mosquito fish. They eat the mosquito larva, and I have a picture of it right there. It's actually looks like it's like a guppy. So there's fish that will eat mosquitoes. Um, and there's a lot of different, you know, there's things that are natural predators that are outside. We'll talk about in a second that will help you out. But if you buy these things and add them to your, say, your pond or your bird baths, your gutters and things, this will help reduce mosquito populations. All right. So for your personal self, you want to wear light clothing outside, long sleeve shirts, long sleeve pants, and socks, especially if you're walking in the woods or you're out during the peak biting time. Light colors repel heat. So if you have on a black shirt, that's going to absorb heat. And if you're out doing strenuous activity, not only that, you're increasing your body heat, and then you also have heat being trapped into your clothing, and then you're going to start sweating, and that's going to attract those female mosquitoes because they're looking for a blood meal so that they can make those eggs. Um, if you can, try to wear light clothing, try to wear long sleeve. I know that's kind of hard out in the winter. I mean, and in the summertime, always wearing long sleeves and all that stuff and pants. A lot of people don't want to do that because it's too hot. If you can't do that, they have these things called mosquito suits, and I have a picture of myself. 'Cause I have one. I use it a lot when I'm going outside and working on my urban farm. Because I have a lot of 80s albopictus that live over by my urban farm. There's like a little creek and stuff back there, so I have a lot of mosquitoes out there. So I wear this, and they'll come up and they'll land on it, but they can't bite through it. And I'm just grateful for this little suit. If you'd like to purchase one of these, I have one on my Amazon storefront. You can go on there and purchase it, and I'll get credit for you buying it. And I'll put that link in the comments. Um, but if you don't have a suit, you can use things like permethrin or DEET. You want to spray this stuff on your clothes though. You don't want to put this directly on your body. DEET should not go on the body. It should go on your clothing, or if you have one of these suits, you can put it on the outside of the suit. Also, sleep with the air conditioner on in your house, or use mosquito netting around your bed when possible. If you have a real big problem with mosquitoes, um, but air conditioner mosquitoes aren't the best flyers, and the air conditioner air or a fan that will do them in very quickly. They can't get to you if that wind is blowing. So just think about that in the summertime. Just having a fan blowing, especially at night when you're sleeping. Um, you know, if you have windows, make sure there's you know the screen on the window to keep them out. If you can't, you know, having that fan there will help you. Also, having that mosquito netting around you will protect you and things like that. Um, let's see. I have some questions over here. Shanika wants to know. Hold on. Shanika wants to know: do mosquito larvae live in high grass? No, mosquito larvae only live in water. They only need water. They can only survive in water. The adults will live in the grass. So the females that are actually the ones that are biting, they will live in the grass and they will feed. If you walk past them and you disturb them, they'll know you're there, and then they'll still land on you. Um, Gail said, "I hope we cover why they can look that large. Why what can look that large? Are you talking about your your bites? Well, everybody responds differently. That's an immuno response. Um, some people are more sensitive to mosquito, the saliva and things that she's spitting out as she's feeding. Like I told you, she releases chemicals, so you can't detect that. So you can't detect that she's there, and your body just could be sensitive to that. So what happens is that you have a more severe allergic response versus somebody else that may have been exposed to that mosquito, in the past. Um, it's all everybody's different. So, like I said, it's the sensitivity of your bodies and your immune system as to how it responds to that. Appreciable access said, "Hello, sorry, I was cooking." That's all right. Frank Williams said, "If you wear bibs overall, they're a great help." Yes, those are help too, but make sure you have your arms covered up as well. Especially if you're walking through the woods and stuff, because they can still bite your arms. The Aedes albopictus, the Asian tiger mosquito, they are very aggressive. They will even bite you in your face. I've been bitten in the face multiple times by them. So just be aware of that. They can also bite through clothing. If it's thin clothing, when I used to live in Georgia, I used to get bit by those things all the time down there, and they were bad in Georgia. The Asian tiger mosquitoes, and they would bite you through your clothes during the day. Like I said, these are active during the day. All right, so there are some natural enemies that can offer some limited control. They're not, the complete package here, because a lot of these are generalists, which means they'll feed on mosquitoes or they'll feed on the larva, but they don't always, since they're generalists, they'll feed on whatever's moving. If they're feeding on insects and other things, they'll find other things to feed on as well. So they're not going to just specifically target mosquitoes and mosquito larvae. But some examples are dragonflies and damselflies. Um, the adults will actually eat the adult mosquitoes. The dragonfly nymphs will actually eat mosquito larvae because their nymphs are aquatic. They live in the water and then they emerge out of the water as adults. When they're nymphs in the water, they're predatory, just like the adults are predators, and they'll actually feed on mosquito larvae. Things like bats, birds, fish in lakes and ponds, they will feed on mosquito larva as well. Bats will feed on mosquitoes, birds will feed on mosquitoes, and the fish will feed on the larva. All right, so some more personal preventative. You can apply lotions, some liquids, some spray repellents to expose skin. An example would be Skin So Soft. Some people said that it's not working anymore. I don't know. Um, you can do things like essential oils or certain essential oils. What you're trying to do when you put this stuff on your skin is to cover up lactic acid so she cannot detect that smell. If she can't detect the lactic acid, she's thinking she's not on your skin. So you're just trying to, put this barrier on there to mask that smell so she's not trying to, find a spot to feed. And that's what these repellents do. Also, when it comes to mosquitoes, if you're going outside, you want to make sure that you have adequate protection, especially during active biting time. So you can do, like I said, the 80 species, they're day biters. So that's the Asian tiger and the yellow fever mosquito. They both bite during the day. Then we have the Culex pipiens. They bite at night. They start biting at dusk. Um, and they'll bite from dusk all the way until dawn, and then they're not active anymore. And then uh it switches off to the day feeders, the 80s. Frank said, what about spiders? Are those considered predators? Yes, spiders are predators, but they don't really. Maybe the little young spiders will eat mosquitoes if they can get them, or they go into their webs and things, but they're not, like I said, even those other things I talked about, they are um they are not, you know, the sure answer to mosquitoes. They're generalists, so they'll feed on mosquitoes, but they'll feed on other things that are there too. And if it's an abundance of something else, they're not even going to pay attention to the mosquitoes. So Michelle wants to know, does one mosquito bite multiple times? I can come inside and undercover 20 bites for from a few hours outside. No, the female, if she's able to feed and gorge herself, she will not bite again for a few days. Because like I said, she has to turn that protein into those eggs. Then she lays the eggs, and then after she lays the eggs, then she'll try to go get another blood meal. So you probably got bit by multiple mosquitoes, not just one. You probably had multiple biting you at once. Aren't you in Georgia, Michelle? Yeah, you're in mosquito heaven next to Florida. Um, Frank said, yes, spiders are predators. Steven said, I'm sorry, Frank Williams said, what about lavender? Yes, I said it essential oils. So essential oils, whatever it is you're trying to put on your skin, is what you're trying to do is get it to mask your lactic acid on your skin. So I mean, showering helps because that removes lactic acid from sweating. But if you're going to be outside and you're going to be doing strenuous activity, you're going to have to put some type of repellent on, so that covers up your sweat smell because that sweat has that lactic acid in it. Stephen Hill said, "What about bug off spray?" Yes, that's just another repellent. I didn't list them. There's hundreds of different types of repellent. I'm not gonna promote one over the other. I'm just telling you that this is what the repellents do. Um, does covering the lactic acid work against the Asian tiger mosquito? That works against all mosquitoes. That you're trying to cover up that lactic acid for all mosquitoes. So if you're, like I said, they can bite through the clothing, but the clothing, if you're sweating, your clothes smell like sweat. So that's why they're going to the clothes. So you're gonna have to do something to mask that smell, um, uh, on your clothing as well. So I said, if you can't, if you're really outside, you're doing a lot of work, you probably want to get one of those mosquito suits I was talking about because that will prevent them from getting on you, and it has some airflow through it, so you're not outside in the extreme heat. When I was telling you, need to wear long sleeves and pants, um that can substitute that, having that mosquito suit on, especially if you're out cutting grass or something during the day, especially when these day biters are biting. Yes, so the lavender water, again, it has the essential oil in there. So all you're doing, you're creating something that's going to create a barrier on your skin. So you're just going to spray something on your skin so that she cannot detect lactic acid on here. So if you were sweating, it's masking that sweat smell. But like I said, there's lots of different repellents. You know, some people burn citronella candles. Some plant lemongrass plants though, that really doesn't prevent mosquitoes from biting you. They'll just land right on the plant. It's actually exposing that essential oil is what is a deterrent, and that's the citronella plant. It's the lemongrass. All right. So what is not a mosquito? So a crane fly is not a mosquito, and I get people all the time telling me I had these big, huge mosquitoes in my house, and I had to kill them. And I said, well, mosquitoes are not huge because I showed you guys on my arm. Go back to that picture right here. This is my arm right here. The mosquito, they're like I told you, they're like the maximum is 7 millimeters. Um, and so they're not that big. Crane flies are huge, and when you if you have something huge, the body shape looks like a mosquito, but that's the classic, kind of like fly body shape anyway. Um, but crane flies are not mosquitoes. Crane flies, most of them don't even have mouth parts, so they do not bite. They're harmless. Also, they do not eat mosquitoes. People call these mosquito hawks, thinking that they actually feed on mosquitoes, and they do not. Like I said, the dragonflies and the damselflies will feed on mosquitoes, but crane flies will not feed on mosquitoes. If they do have mouth parts, most of them are feeding on nectar. Now, their larvae, they will feed. Some of them are predatory, but a lot of them feed on plant roots. And they're these little maggots that they're kind of like brown maggots that you'll find in grass and things. And they can actually some species can damage grass. Um, and I've had pictures on my accounts if you ever want to look it up of crane flies. But that is one in the picture here on the top right. That's a crane fly that I found outside. Just want to show you how big they are. That's my finger next to it. So if it's that big, that's not a mosquito. That's a crane fly. Like I said, they're harmless. If you find them in your house, just put them outside. Just catch them in a little jar and put them back outside. Um, Most of the time they'll die within a day or two in your house anyway because it's not a ideal environment. Um, but down here we have pictures. So we have is that a quarter? Um, and we have crane fly next to a quarter, and then we have some mosquitoes next to this dime. So that shows you how big and how small they are. All right. So that's the end of the presentation. Did you guys have any other questions about um, mosquitoes, medical entomology, vectors, hosts, anything like that? Let's see. Gail said, she said, I'm in Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes. In summer, we have a real problem. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Y'all have all that water up there. And they love it. Yeah, so you might be a person that, especially if you live by one of those lakes or you live where a lot of water pools, you might want to use the mosquito dunks in like, your yard. If you have like where water pools in your yard, put the mosquito dunks in there. You also might want to invest in getting one of those mosquito suits to prevent them from biting you. Um, the closer you live to water, and especially standing water, the more you're gonna have to deal with, mosquito populations. Stephen Hill said, "Okay, I'm moving to the country part of California soon to make a garden. Am I gonna become a meal?" Uh, yes, there are mosquitoes over there. Like I say, just do what I say. If you dump the water, you cut down on their breeding sites. You're gonna cut down on their populations. If you're gonna be outside, wear light colored clothes. Use some type of repellent. If you don't want to use a repellent, get one of those suits. But just know that yeah, there's mosquitoes in California, so you just got to take the preventative measures to prevent yourself from getting bit. Remember, females are the only ones that feed. the main thing, like I say, like I showed you guys, the wigglers and stuff, especially if you find these in water, you need to dump that water. Um, you need to get rid of it. And if you're getting rid of this, me dumping this water, because there's probably about 100 or so larvae in that water. Me dumping that water will eliminate at least 100 mosquitoes. I don't know if they're male or female, but eliminating both sexes will reduce population because they can't breed. And they need that water to breed. Frank Williams said, "Can you give an example of a carbon dioxide trap you mentioned before?" I didn't mention any carbon dioxide traps, but you can make a carbon dioxide trap by getting dry ice and putting it in a container. People do this a lot of times when they're having a picnic or something outside. They'll put some dry ice in a bucket or a container, and they'll put it off away from wherever they're going to have people congregating. So when that dry ice starts to break down, it releases carbon dioxide, and it will make the mosquitoes think that there's something over there that's exhaling carbon dioxide, so they'll all be gravitate over there. It works. I've seen people have used it and it does work, but just know it's not going to get rid of every mosquito. There's still going to be some that they ain't going to be tricked by that. They're going to be like, oh, I still see this body heat over here, so something's not right. We got this dry ice and it's cold, but it's giving off the CO2. But I see these warm bodies over here, so just know that you still could be fed up on, even with those traps. Let's see. Shanika said we're all snacks. Yep, we're all meals, blood meals. Gail said, "Thank you for this presentation. I learned so much. Thank you for joining the presentation." Stephen Hill said, "Okay, thank you so much." Appreciable Asset said, um, "How about I harvest dragonflies?" No, no, you can't really harvest dragonflies. Um, I mean, you could take the nymphs. They're called naiads, and you could take them and put them in a container where there's some larvae. But they're not a really good preventative. Like I told you, the best preventative for mosquitoes is dumping water. So like I said, it has to be a community effort. I can't dump water in my yard and my neighbor has, stuff, all piled up and it's accumulating water and still water. Everybody has to be on the same page to prevent, huge mosquito populations. Um, like I said, they can live in gutters and things like that. So it's just going around checking your house and finding, breeding spots. That's going to be the best way to prevent uh, an explosion in their populations. And if you can't dump the water using those mosquito dunks or that Bacillus thuringiensis bacteria, it's in other forms as well. They have little pellets and all this stuff and liquid versions of it. Um, but that can be used to control those populations. It'll kill those larvae. The dragonflies, like I said, they're not a cure all for this. They do feed on them, but not like that. They're generalists, so they'll feed on other stuff. Alexis S said asthma from roaches. Yes, roaches, they're droppings, as well as the they're picking up dust and things and carrying it around their bodies. They can cause asthma. Michelle said, "Thank you so much, Nadia." You're welcome, Michelle. All right, so let's talk about this homework real quick. If you so choose to do it. So, homework, I want you to answer both of these questions. The first one is Western equine encephalitis, WEE, is a disease transmitted by mosquitoes. What mosquitoes can transmit this disease? What type of microorganism causes WEE? And what animal does the microorganism come from? What are the symptoms and where are most cases of the disease seen? And what is the fatality rate for this particular disease? Then the second question is heartworm in dog is transmitted by mosquitoes. What is the name? I want the scientific name of the parasite that causes heartworm. what animals serve as hosts to the parasite? So these are not too hard. It's a lot of information about both of these diseases out there, so you should be able to find it. It won't be like the pellagra question. Um, so any questions about mosquitoes, homework, any of that? I'll post a homework question on the YouTube page, the Facebook page, and on the school website. And this is the school website. This is where, all the lives, all the classes, all the courses that I offer. You can go here and you can see all that information. Go to kiwiproduce.farm/school and you can pull those things up, or you can buy classes and courses and things like that. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can contact me by email, urbanfarmsister@gmail.com. Uh, you know, or you can visit the school website. If you have an account on there, you can send messages on there. You can follow me on YouTube, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I put information on all those sites. So if you have any questions, like I said, you can find me on multiple outlets. Let's see. Alexis said, "Ooh, wow, who did that? Who did what, Alexis?" Frank Williams said, "Everyone needs to be donating to Nadia's Cash App, Nadia Ruffin." Oh, thanks, Frank. I appreciate that. In the beginning, I thank you all for that have been contributors. I know you came in late, but I thank you for contributing to my my channel and my content so that I can keep this information coming. It all comes at a cost. Like I have to pay for the internet and all this stuff on the streaming and all this other stuff. So yes, your donations help a lot, and they can help me keep it coming. So again, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube if you haven't. Make sure you follow my Facebook page if you haven't. That's Urban Farm Sister for Facebook, Urban Farm Sister for YouTube. Um, if you'd like to become a patron, if you don't have a Cash App, you can also become a patron on Patreon. And my Patreon is patreon.com/Urban Farm Sister. And you become a patron. And it's monthly that you can contribute and things like that. So I appreciate you guys for signing on this evening. If no one else has any other questions, I will see you guys later. Like I say, just send me an email or contact me if you have any questions, and hopefully you guys can do the homework so somebody else can read the answers next week. Um, but if that's it, I'll see you guys next week. Have to come up with another topic. But have a good evening. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye bye.